Can a change as small as the way to stop being the key for Ferrari to dominate the 2025 Formula One season? And even more, are we witnessing the rebirth of Leclerc as the true number one of the team in front of a Hamilton that still does not find its place? Charles Leclerc is writing, perhaps without as much noise as others, one of the most meticulous and technical pages of the 2025 season. What Monegasco does is not spectacular at first glance. It is not a last-second maneuver, nor an impossible save in torrential rain. It is something much more subtle, how and when it slows. The difference between an outstanding pilot and a candidate for the championship is not always in power, but in precision. And in that territory, Leclerc is far ahead of the rest. The technique that has perfected is called overlapping pedal technique, a maneuver that implies intentionally the use of the accelerator and brake at the curve input. At the conceptual level, it seems an error. Why stepping on the accelerator when it is stopping? But when it is understood how load transfer works in a Formula One car, everything makes sense. What Leclerc does is keep the back train active, while stabilizing the car with the brake. This small dose of controlled acceleration maintains the pressure on the posterior axis and prevents a survival that, under normal conditions, would destabilize the car. This perfect balance allows the Ferrari SF25 to rotate faster without compromising adhesion. Leclerc has trained this technique almost obsessively. Telemetry data reveals how their right foot performs microadjusts at a speed that challenges human logic. While other pilots completely lift their foot from the accelerator and then step on the brake with decision, Leclerc combines both movements in a perfectly choreographed dance that only a few engineers understand thoroughly. This mastery not only translates into speed, but entire management efficiency and reduction of mechanical stress in the car. It is a surgical approach, almost a watchmaker, which aligns perfectly with the technical character of circuits such as Monaco, Hungaroring, or Imola, where short curve control is more valuable than straight speed. And the most fascinating thing is that this technique does not come from an engineering school, but from the instinct polished by experience. Leclerc has transformed in discomfort of the car the aggressive behavior of the front train of the SF25 into a tactical advantage. Where others see a problem, he found a tool. This adaptation capacity is what is clearly distanced from your new teammate. Hamilton, with all its greatness, is still trying to find its place in the Ferrari ecosystem. Meanwhile, Leclerc is already part of the DNA of the car. Maranello engineers, in fact, are progressively adjusting the tuning of the SF25 to exploit this particularity in the Leclerc pilot. From the motor brake calibration to the allocation of the hybrid system torque in the input to curve phases, everything is beginning to revolve around it. He is a pilot who not only adapts to the car, but redefines how that car should pilot. If Ferrari is in a position to fight this year for the title, it is largely because he has a pilot who has decided to be more than fast. He has decided to be surgically perfect. In a Formula One where the tents are built in the invisible details, Leclerc is demonstrating that it is not necessary to roar to be the most lethal. It is only necessary to stop differently. How many points can a technique be worth? The answer is being built back, and Charles Leclerc writes it without raising his voice. Lewis Hamilton has been, for more than a decade, Mercedes's face. Each victory, each podium, each title was built on an almost perfect relationship of symbiosis between pilot and machine. His arrival in Ferrari in 2025 not only represented a change of team, but a complete reconfiguration of his technical environment, his driving style, and his ability to adapt. At 40, Hamilton faces the most technical challenge of his career, in an environment where tradition, pressure, and expectations are at levels that he had not even lived. The adaptation process has been brutal. Hamilton compared it to a brain transplant, an expression that, far from being hyperbolic, precisely transmits what is living. In Mercedes, the car was configured to offer stability on the rear axle. His driving style, built on years of specific feedback with Brackley engineers, was based on confidence in rear traction and late but stable braking. In Ferrari, all that changes. The SF25 is designed with a more aggressive approach in the front train, demanding the pilot a finer, more sensitive driving, especially in curve entrance phases. The car feels more alive but also more nervous. To this is added a technical change that, although invisible to many, has been decisive: the brakes. Hamilton went from using carbon industry systems for more than 15 years to work with Brembo brakes, a transition that directly affects sensitivity and response when braking. The touch, the feedback, the way in which the temperature of the disc is managed, everything is different. Even the use of the motor brake, much more aggressive in Ferrari, forces Hamilton to reprogram their automatisms, those reflections perfected by more than a decade of continuous work. Where before his body responded by inertia, Now each movement requires awareness and adjustment. Despite all these difficulties, the first signs of progress are evident. In China's sprint classification, Hamilton showed a brilliant performance. He took advantage of Australia's GP lessons and test sessions to refine their relationship with SF25. He was comfortable, fast, and above all confident, that confidence that had disappeared in his last years with Mercedes. The return that placed him in front in the shootout was a testimony of what he can still offer. Surgical precision, courage, and a perfect reading of the track under pressure. It was the first time that he really felt in control, not fighting the car but flowing with him. But the road is not over. There are still palpable differences in the career rhythm, in the management of tires under changing conditions, and in the reading of a strategy in Ferrari, a team that has not yet shown to have the same operational precision as Mercedes. However, Hamilton seems more motivated than ever. Each session is a learning opportunity, each race a test field. It is redefining its legacy, not with immediate titles, but with a demonstration of resilience, intelligence, and evolution. Lewis Hamilton could have retired at the top as an untouchable legend. Instead, he chose the most difficult path, reinventing himself. In a new environment, in a legendary but unpredictable team, in front of a young partner who dominates the car as an extension of his body, Hamilton is writing a new chapter. It is not an easy return. But if someone can turn a transition into an epic, it is him. The start of the 2025 season has shown Ferrari in a state of deep contrasts. On the one hand, it has one of the most technical cars and with greater margin of evolution in the grille. On the other, its results have not been consistent or reflect the true potential of the SF25. In Australia, which seemed a promising beginning, quickly became a frustrating scenario. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton played in the first curve, which damaged the front wing of Monegasco and completely unbalanced their career. Despite the problem, Leclerc decided not to enter boxes to replace it, sacrificing aerodynamic load in search of straight speed, a bold decision that ended up taking its toll on the general career rhythm. But it wasn't just a track execution issue. Ferrari also made strategic mistakes, such as keeping his pilots on track too long under changing conditions when the rain began to make his appearance. That delay in reacting made them lose key positions, a classic failure in the recent team of the team, which seemed overcome after the progress of 2024. The team left Australia with the feeling that the classification and the race did not reflect the true competitive level of the SF25, a thought that can be reassuring internally, but that does not change the results in the table. In China, the scenario changed, but inconsistency patterns were repeated. Hamilton starred in a brilliant performance in the sprint classification, while Leclerc fought more than usual to find rhythm. In the main race, a new contact between the two, this time in the initial curves, again complicated the performance of Charles. These episodes reveal a growing tension within the garage. It is not a declared rivalry, but a silent struggle to establish internal hierarchy in the team. While Leclerc seeks to consolidate his status as a natural leader from experience and adaptation to the car, Hamilton provides the pressure of a hungry champion to demonstrate that he can still make differences. That dynamic, far from being a problem, can be a source of progress if Ferrari manages to channel it correctly. Technically, SF25 is one of the most advanced cars in terms of integration between aerodynamics, weight balance, and braking system. Its configuration with greater load on the front axle makes it ideal for circuits of technical and dry curves, such as Monaco or Imola. In addition, Ferrari has optimized the use of the motor brake, a resource that improves braking efficiency without having more pressure on the discs, which helps both thermal and energy consumption. These aspects make the car a tool with enormous potential. But all this needs to translate into consistent results, something that has not happened for now. The big question that begins to emerge is whether Ferrari can maintain the rhythm of development and adaptation that already show teams such as McLaren and Red Bull. McLaren has continued the impulse of 2024 with an extraordinarily tuned car, while Red Bull, despite its internal turbulence, continues to have the pure talent of Verstappen to keep them in the fight. Ferrari, on the other hand, needs to find not only speed but synchrony. Without an impeccable execution and strategy, without a clear harmony among its pilots, and without quick decisions at critical moments, the SF25 runs the risk of being as a wasteful jewel in the modern history of the team. Ferrari has shown that he has the technical elements to compete. What is missing is operational cohesion, tactical clarity, and effective emotional management within the team. The talent is, the car is, the resources are. But in Formula One, the one that has the most pieces, but the one that best assembles them does not win. And that is Ferrari's real face in 2025. a team on the threshold between the greatness and the repetition of his old mistakes. The season is still young, but the window to find that balance closes with each grand prize. Ferrari is facing a crossroads that could define not only his season, but his immediate future in Formula One. The arrival of Lewis Hamilton was more than a star signing. It was a declaration of intentions, a commitment to the present and for the media and technical impact of a 7-time champion. But that incorporation also altered the internal ecosystem of a team that already had a natural leader in Charles Leclerc. What seemed to be a powerful alliance is demonstrating to be a delicate coexistence, loaded with expectations, pressure and adjustments that still do not find their equilibrium point. On track, Ferrari has shown that he has the necessary tools to compete at the highest level. The SF25 is fast, agile and technically solid. His strength points in traction, response to brake and energy efficiency make it a car capable of gaining races, as long as conditions and decisions accompany. But in Formula One, the difference between a competitive car and a champion car is not alone in speed. It is in the constancy, the strategic execution and the internal harmony of the team. And it is in those areas where Ferrari still stumbles. The missing opportunities in Australia and the tensions between pilots in China are a reflection of a structure that is still looking for its best version. The silent rivalry between Hamilton and Leclerc is at the center of everything. There are no open conflicts, but an implicit struggle for narrative control within Ferrari. Hamilton wants to demonstrate that it is still a dominant force, which can be adapted and overcome even in a new environment. Leclerc, meanwhile, does not want to give up the land he has won with effort and talent. That dynamic, if it is not clearly managed and leadership from the direction of the team, can become an obstacle rather than a source of motivation. Outside, media pressure is also a factor that Ferrari cannot ignore. The fans demand results, the press seeks stories, and any sign of weakness is amplified to the maximum. Ferrari's story is full of chapters of greatness, but also of internal collapses caused by the lack of direction and cohesion. Today, Scuderia has a unique opportunity to write a different story. With a capable car, with 2 elite pilots and with a technical structure and evolution, it has everything to return to the foreground of the championship. But that story will depend on how they decide to act in the next races. The 2025 season still offers many opportunities. There is time to correct, to build, to consolidate a project that combines speed and stability. But there are also obvious risks. If Ferrari fails to control his own demons, if he repeats errors from the past and lets the internal tensions define his destiny, then we will not be talking about a rebirth, but of a new break. One more in the long history of a team that has so many times as close, but that needs more than ever to make potential into real glory.